Roger, if you're ready, we'll start with you. Do you want to go ahead?
Can't hear you, Roger.
Can you hear me now? I've unmuted. I just missed the top there, Danny. Did you say to switch off videos, or are we okay to keep?
If we could, yeah, just keep all videos switched off and mute your microphones unless you're asking a question. So. Okay,
I'll switch off the video now.
No problem, Roger. You go ahead.
All right, thanks. Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for speaking to us. I understand the team have been training today, being able to get out. How's it gone to get everyone out there on the field and training together?
Yeah, brilliant. We had training yesterday as well, and that was good for the guys to get out, and everyone's gone through quarantine and been really professional. I think the attitude's been fantastic, and having such a large squad, obviously, with the players in reserve is a little bit different to how previous tours have been, but that's the normal now, and it's been really, really good. The intensity certainly coming out of a few days off after a hard series against Sri Lanka. Just shows how keen the guys are for the series and wanting to do really, really well.
In terms of your role with the batting, how different is it in terms of conditions out there, and how specialised does your advice have to be going out there in terms of what you're going to face?
I think it just varies from player to player. I think some this will be their first tour to India. Some would have been here quite a few times, so that's the knack of it, if you like. And so there's different things, different messages, and it's about building relationships with players that I previously perhaps haven't worked with as much as others. So the message varies from player to player, but the fundamentals of playing in India are pretty much the same. Big runs early on, first innings like anywhere else, but in India it's really, really important. And playing spin and having your own method and being able to execute that under pressure is probably the most important things.
There has been a lot of talk about facing spin as well, but their seam attack isn't too shabby either. How important is it to keep ramming that home to players? Is it that just don't just focus on practicing against the spin, because there's a lot to be worried about in terms of the seam as well?
But certainly, we saw their pace attack in Australia do really well, and they're very talented all round with the ball. So for batters here, more so as you go around the world nowadays, everyone's got a good pace attack, you would say. And so that's crucially important to prepare for both the confronting with the new ball and perhaps a reverse ball with the seam and spin in the middle. And probably the seam is being able to do a very good holding job. So your skill level has to be very, very high. And playing out here in the humidity and heat in Chennai, you have to be very fit and very switched on.
We spoke to Jofra Archer yesterday, and he was full of praise for the ECB and the way they've handled and managed players, rotating and so on. And you know as well as anyone the pressures of overseas tours and something. What are your thoughts on the way things have been going and how the players have been coping with the quarantining and the bubbles?
From what I've seen, it's been excellent. Everyone just buying in and adjusting to how the life is or the lifestyle has to be here. And I can't fault the guys. I think it's been superb. And I think just the general understanding and getting on with it. Obviously, it's the beginning of a tour, but having come from a long tour, or a longish tour, you would say, in Sri Lanka, and having to go through all the quarantine stuff, it's been brilliant. The guys have really adjusted well and excited for what is going to be a difficult test series.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan. I'll let someone else jump in now. Thanks for your time.
Okay, we'll go with Scott, Talk Sport, and then Will Macpherson, Evening Standard.
Hey, Jonathan. I think you were in the side when Joe Root made his debut back in 2012. And this is a 100th test. How surprised have you been, or impressed have you been with his growth over the years from that baby-faced chap back in Nagpur in 2012 to now over 8,000 test match runs?
Certainly baby-faced still. You wouldn't say he's played 100 test matches from compared to the other sort of crow's feet that guys get from playing so much cricket in the sun. But I wouldn't say surprised one bit. I think that tour he came in the warm-up games, he certainly impressed everybody, not only by his skill, but the way that he conducted himself and trained. For somebody who hadn't really played international cricket or was new to the side, and gone from strength to strength. I think the way that he leads and the way he leads by example, the way that he still has a passion for the game and the desire to improve, I think that rubs off on everyone. And England are very lucky to have a player like him leading, you would say, as captain, but able to bat in the middle orders like he does.
And that's important in this format series. You mentioned leading from the front. You've already saw someone like Dom, who wasn't getting runs in the first 3 of his innings in Sri Lanka, go and then get a 50, having watched Joe play spin. So it's more his batting as well that's going to be important in terms of leading from the front in this series, more so than his captaincy, perhaps.
No, I think it's just hand in hand. I think, you know, they got a lot of responsibility with the ball. Certainly captaining in India is a skill in itself with regards to the conditions and rotating bowlers and spinners. And he's done that really well. We saw how well he did that in Sri Lanka. And I think it goes hand in hand. It seems to be very natural to him, captaincy and decision-making. Certainly has a great presence around the guys as well. And, you know, it's going to be a real challenge, I think, for everybody. But for Joe, full confidence in his ability with the bat and leading the boys. I know he's very excited about the series and can't wait to get started.
And just finally for me, do you think he's finally settled into this role? He looks like the combination of him and Chris Silverwood are starting to really pay off in this England side. Big first innings runs, of course, is the key in that.
I think with Chris Silverwood's been around for a long time, so I think their relationship has always been there, and they work very, very well from what I've seen, having spent a bit of time in the summer with them. And they have a great relationship. So first innings runs as well are key, but we saw in Sri Lanka that, you know, you need to play cricket for the 4 or 5 days that the test match lasts. So it's not just about first innings with the ball as well, but be able to back it up as batsmen and as bowlers in the second innings as well. That's when the games are won or lost.
Cheers, Trotty.
Okay, we'll go to Will Mack and then John Etheridge.
Hi, Trotty. Chris Silverwood and Joe Root have placed so much stock in getting those big first inning scores, and England have managed that overseas over the last year or so. I just wonder, how important do you think batting very deep is as a team in places like India to ensure that you can get those big first inning scores and prevent defeat, I suppose?
I think it is key, and it's always a luxury if you can, but you've got to make sure you have the right options with the ball as well. And I think that takes perhaps paramount when it comes to winning test matches. And you're trying to find that balance all the time. So that's why someone like Ben Stokes adds that balance, and very lucky to have a player like him, whoever which all-rounder is playing. And yes, it is nice, but it's also, I would say, key for everybody to make sure that they have a good game plan as a batter. And make sure that they can chip in and hold up an end, even if you're down at the lower end of the order, understand what your role is. So working with those guys is always enjoyable for myself as a batting coach at the moment. And making sure that the guys are willing to, are sort of ready to perform when called upon.
Cheers.
Okay, John, and then Rory Dollard.
Hi, Jonathan. Yeah, I was going to ask about the sort of style of batting. I mean, Silverwood and Root have both talked about qualities such as patience and concentration, which you had in abundance when you played. So do you think you can add something to the way you can go about scoring runs?
I think it's about just being able to, you know, add to it and say, sort of reinvent the wheel with the guys. I'd say make sure that they're in the right space and ready to whatever the sort of conditions dictate how you need to play. I think that's crucial, certainly out here. And that can change from first inning to second innings quite drastically, depending on the surface. So being able to adapt, I think, is key. And so that's where I see my role, in just helping the guys make sure for all eventualities. But don't forget, it's not just spin out. Yeah, they're going to have a good seam attack as well that the guys have got to work on. So making sure the all-round game is in tip-top shape. That comes down to us as coaches, but also as the players take responsibility, not only in training, but in the matches as well.
And can I also ask, is it a job that you fancy full-time, perhaps, because it does seem as though there is a vacancy?
Pardon?
Do you fancy this job full-time because there is a vacancy?
Yeah, obviously. To work with England or any role with England side, permanent role is fantastic, or within the ECB. So, yeah, fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes.
Have you applied?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you know when you might hear back? Is there some deadline, or?
I'm just waiting to hear back. Yeah.
Right. I mean, obviously, Jacques Caddis did it in Sri Lanka, and Jacques Caddis did it in Sri Lanka. So, you know, potentially up against some quite high-class other candidates.
I'm sure there's plenty of people around the world who want to work with the England side or within the ECB. So I know that they'll always be, in high, they're highly sought after.
Good man. Thanks. Cheers.
Cheers, John. We'll go with Rory, and then we'll take some questions from India. Go ahead, Rory.
Trotty, your entire Test career took place sort of behind the pay TV paywall on Sky. I just wondered what you think of the prospect or the possibility of the Test team coming back to sort of free to air, and whether the guys are excited about that possibility of maybe reaching a few more pairs of eyes.
Yeah, I think the more people that we can get watching the game is a great idea, and it's fantastic for the sport. And sure, it's going to be exciting for everybody. I think people at home in lockdown, hopefully they can watch it and get the nation behind the side, and just give a little bit back to what's obviously quite a testing time all around the world. So the more people who watch and support us over here in what will be exciting series in India. But I know that's always the sort of ECB's thought, is to try to inspire a generation or people to play the game, and by doing that on free to air and through Sky as well, it's about reaching those people and making sure we get as many people playing cricket and also playing sport, which is very important, certainly in the current climate. Thanks,
Troy. And also, as a guy who spent most of your career at 3, you had a little dart at the top of the order as well. How do you reckon Zach is looking? He obviously got his big score at 3. Would he be happier to sort of slot back in, do you think, psychologically, having done well there?
I think Zach's the type of guy who will enjoy playing wherever you sort of put him, whether it's down lower order, but he's just, chomping at the bit to play, and an exciting player, isn't he? So, he's worked really hard at his all-round game for a young player coming on his first sort of subcontinent tour. He's made some great strides after the Pakistan series, working against spin and a few things. And hopefully he can sort of fulfill his ambition here and do really well this series.
Okay, we will move to India. Vivek Krishnan first, and then Kuran Habib. Go ahead, Vivek.
Yeah. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello.
Yeah, India have lost very few tests at home recently, and when they have lost, it has mostly been on square turners.
I think ones that offer a little bit, perhaps for the seam and for a bit of spin, but also, those days 2 and 3 where the batters, where it's a little bit flat for the batters, and we can all see a good contest between bat and ball, I think, is what we want to see, because both teams, I think, are pretty well-rounded. So, that'll make for exciting cricket and for good cricket, and a good advertisement for Test cricket, like we saw. And over Test, I think, evens itself out. And you'll get good wickets, and you'll get some wickets probably carry out a little bit quicker. So you get the opportunity as a batsman or as a spinner, or to make that pay and take that opportunity.
Okay, we're going to go to Kuran, please. And the last question will be, can we just go on mute? Whoever's got their microphone open, please. Thank you. Can we go to Kuran, please? Thank you.
Yeah, hi. A lot of the players in the current England squad have toured India in 2016, 17. Have there been any discussions on what have been the lessons learned from the previous tour, what they should do, which they didn't do in the last tour?
Well, I think I remember watching that series, and I think there were some flat wickets, I think, in Chennai that was quite high scoring. But I think perhaps you've got to score more than opposite. Again, first inning, I think you've got to be clear and win the. So that second innings, you're ahead of the game a little bit. Trying to play catch up in or behind the 8 ball in India is always tough, and being so good in their own conditions. So making sure you start the game, whether it's with bat or ball, and all your chances, you've got to be clinical in the eye when fielding. Make sure that all those catches and all run out opportunities. So your all-round game has to be really good, and I think that's just the focus at the moment is to be ready come Friday. Whether it's with that first ball bowling or facing up to that first delivery. That's I don't think you learn from your lessons, but perhaps you don't carry them with you. And I'd say that's basically what the guys have been speaking about.
Thank
Okay,
you.
last question. Gauri Chandra, please.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
Would you be comfortable speaking about a mental health issue little bit?
And with what regards?
No, just a question in general terms.
Okay.
Recently, you spoke about the mental health issues all around the world and you dealing with it. So, with a lot of intense cricket coming in and international cricket giving so much pressure, would you like to give one advice that the players who are facing it right now, dealing with it, how should they go about it?
I think everyone just go about it on your own, whether it's whether you're happy to talk about it or in public or speak to people in private, and just make sure that you're open. I think nowadays it's a bit easier for guys to talk, and I think everyone's awareness and there's always the support. I think the ECB are fantastic in the way they support the players and making sure they have everything that they need here in India or back home. And I feel it's easier, subject to maybe talk about or broach the subject with teammates or management. So I think they're getting the support they need now, and I think it's all around the world as well, which is great. So it's exciting to see the guys here in this situation now and going about their business, and excited for the series.
Okay, thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you. Cheers.